What's up, everybody? How's Leaside doing tonight? All right. It's nice to see so many familiar faces out here in the crowd. It's also very cool to see a lot of unfamiliar faces as well. So for those of you who don't know me, I just want to give myself a little introduction here. My name is Steve. I was born and raised right here out of Leaside, greatest neighborhood on earth, if I may add. All right. So yeah, growing up in Leaside, you know, I ran the course. Went through Mrs. Parks Preschool, Bessborough Elementary, Leaside High, and most recently Wilfrid Laurier University for about 3 years until I dropped out. So I started at Laurier back in 2019. Probably wasn't going to graduate until like 2027. And, you know, that's actually got its upside. It's got its downside too. If I told somebody I was in my 8th year of university, they think I was studying to become a doctor. The downside, I was a communications major. Didn't like going to class. But it worked out. As soon as I dropped out, I found a pretty good job right away, working for a non-profit organization. Unemployment. I don't work. I'm back home living with my parents. You know, I'd love to move out, but the city of Toronto is very expensive. You know, it really makes me reminisce on the good old days when our old mayor, Rob Ford, was smoking crack. It makes me wonder, why was the city more affordable when the mayor was smoking crack? You know, am I crazy, or is there some sort of connection here? I think if Mayor John Tory had been picking up the pipe instead of laying it down, I think we'd be in a much better place. But yeah, living at home, it's not too bad. It's just a big adjustment going from my standard of living to my parents, and sometimes their bar's set a little too high. For instance, my mom yells at me about once a week for making a mess. She's like, "Steven, look what you did in the bathroom, it's disgusting. There's water all over the sink." I'm like, "Mom, the sink, that's where the water's supposed to be, you know?" But I'm working on moving out. I try to put money together wherever I can, without actually working a job, of course. And I've come to discover that the most convenient source of income is when your relatives just like give you money out of nowhere. You know, when your grandparents just slide you a 20. But every time your parents catch an eye of this, you know, they try to put a stop to it right away. They're like, "Oh, no, don't give that to him, he doesn't need it." You know, and then you're just standing there like, "Shut the fuck up," you know? It's like whose side are you on here? But money aside, I've been making some good changes in my life. You know, I stopped smoking weed. Weed made me very, very paranoid. So really I had no choice but to quit. You know, the last time I was smoking, I was with my buddy. We were both zooted out of our minds. And, you know, I noticed the cop car behind us. You know, I started freaking out. I turned to my buddy. I was like, "Yo, man, I think that cop car, I think it's following us, man." And my buddy's like, "Yeah, man, you just drove through a playground." Rest assured, not actually a true story. I don't have a driver's license, so no need to worry about that. Fun fact, not owning a driver's license prevents 100% of accidents. It's also 100% effective against me finding a date, so that's a little yin-yang situation there. I don't have a credit card either. I think owning a credit card is just going to plunge me into debt, so I just want to cut that problem off before it even starts. But people always rip on me for this. They're like, "Steve, you got to get a credit card. You need to build your credit score. You cannot buy a house without a credit score. The economy's in shambles. I don't think you're buying a house with a credit score either." I mean, the only way my generation has of buying property is through a game of Monopoly, but that's about it. Everything's very expensive. The world kind of sucks. I try not to pay too much attention to it. Really, I put most of my time into just being funny instead, and it's been paying off. I've been getting more recognition as a comedian recently, which is cool, but a lot of times people try to give me suggestions for my act, which I don't like, because the most common suggestion I get is that I should tell racist jokes. So I'm just gonna clear the air. It's not gonna happen. Sorry to disappoint you guys, but it is not gonna happen. I'm gonna take things down to a serious level for about a minute here. It's 2023. Under no circumstance would I ever tell a racist joke in front of a live audience. It's career suicide. All right. You know, I write my jokes to make people laugh. I don't try to offend people. But actually, the last time I was here, I told some jokes about Helen Keller, who was a blind deaf woman. Most people found that hilarious, obviously. Some other people, you know, they didn't find that so funny. They actually thought I shouldn't be telling jokes like that. And for those people, I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. So little known fact about myself, I actually have a hearing loss. I used to wear hearing aids. I now have like a little vision loss, so normally I'd be wearing glasses, so you know, mild hearing loss, mild vision loss. I'm technically like a fraction Helen Keller. You know, at least a quarter. So I'm allowed to tell these jokes. But if somebody who was completely blind and completely deaf confronted me about this, it's a different story. You know, if a blind deaf person approached me and they said, listen, like, those jokes, they really cut deep, they hurt my feelings, they're not funny, I'd take it seriously. I'd approach them with sincerity and I'd say, look, how the hell did you find out I was making those jokes? How's that even possible? Again, all jokes. It's all jokes. The first thing I hear from people every time I tell them I'm a comedian, they're like, oh, a comedian, eh? You must get all the girls. Girls love a funny guy. You would think. But life's not all sunshine and rainbows, is it? If you guys can somehow believe this, I actually don't have the best luck with the ladies. I don't. I was recently kicked out of a wedding for hitting on the bride, and now my cousin won't even talk to me just because I ruined her wedding. But all relationship misfortunes aside, I can at least take pride in the fact I've never broken up with somebody over text, because it's pathetic. It is pathetic. Breaking up with somebody over text, it's like when you're losing in a video game, so you just quit the game. Yeah, tough crowd. Yeah, you know, having the option to hide behind your phone all the time, it turns people into like cowardice. So I try to spend less time on my phone and more time in the real world. But the more time I spend in the real world, the more I'm convinced we're actually living in a simulation. You know, there's like these little details that give it away. Like, you ever notice those car dealerships off the side of a highway in like the middle of nowhere? I mean, how the hell is anybody who needs to buy a car supposed to get there? Like, you gotta drive to those places. Now it's like opening up a boat store in the middle of the ocean. It just doesn't make sense. But, you know, if we actually were living in a simulation, I think I'd be okay with it. Because I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and it'd be pretty reassuring to know that none of them were actually real. The biggest mistake I've ever made is this tattoo I got the second I turned 18. You know, the only reason I got it is because my friends said I wouldn't. And you know, I don't back down from the challenge. I don't. As soon as they said, you're not getting that, I marched right to the tattoo parlor, paid the deposit, booked the appointment. But when I came back a few days later for the appointment, they were like, listen, there's been an issue with your artist. She fell down the stairs and broke her back. So I was like, oh snap, like, what do I do now? And they said, well, it's two options. You can either take your money back, or you can reschedule another appointment and come back a different time. And my friend's with me, he says, listen man, like, this is obviously a sign, you shouldn't get it. And I'm someone who sees signs in everything, you know? To me, there's no such thing as a coincidence. But as soon as I have my mind set on something, I'm ignoring every signal the universe throws at me. So I was like, to hell with you, I'm getting that tattoo. And I got it. And I've lived with regret for the past 3 years. Now in retrospect, the tattoo artist falling down a flight of stairs and breaking her back, the day I was supposed to get that tattoo might have been a pretty big sign I shouldn't get it. As a matter of fact, I don't think it was getting any more obvious than that, unless I witnessed myself coming out of a time machine and telling me, don't get that fucking tattoo. I don't think it was gonna be any more clear than that. Anyways, no thank you. Anyways, you guys have been a great crowd tonight. All right.